Hello, hello Philippines, and hello Tagum City. Happy New Year to all our listeners and viewers. And again, it's another episode full of learning and fun here in School on Air. I am your teacher on air, Teacher Carol, and together with me is Teacher Dana.
Good day and Happy New Year sa atong mga suking kaastig. And I hope you enjoyed your Christmas break safely with your family. We're back again here in our Salida TeleRadyo for another School on Air set. And it's still me, Teacher Dana.
Thank you so much, Salida TeleRadyo, for another opportunity to be on air para maghatid ng mga bagong kaalaman sa ating mga kaastig. Ug syempre, Teacher Dana, before ta magsugod, ato sang timbayaon ang mga taong nagpaluyo aning School on Air. Let's start with our ever-supportive principal, Dr. Jeffrey C. Villarosa, and to the rest of our working team, the teachers in LFNHS.
Yes, and of course, we are always grateful for the help and guidance of our Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Jocelyn, and to the rest of the officials in DepEd Tagum City Division.
Sakto jud ka diha, Teacher Dana. Before we proceed, I would like to inform everyone that we can also be heard in La Filipina National High School official Facebook page and in our partner radio station 98.3 Gold FM. Kuyawa no?
Yes, ma'am, that's true. So akong ginaawahagtan ng mga estudyante na maminaw ug maayo sa atong School on Air karong hapuna aron makabalo na pud sila og mga bag-ong kaalam.
Wow, that sounds exciting, Teacher Dana. Maong, dili na nato padugayon pa. Today, we will explore another content of special program for journalism. So kaway-kaway sa ating mga students dyan under SPJ.
Yes, and our lesson this afternoon focuses on SPJ. But still, pwede o kaya kaayo ansiran sa atong ubang mga estudyante. And for this session, we will learn more about journalism technicalities. Pero malalaman natin yan maya-maya. So stay tuned mga kaastig!
Tama! But before we proceed to a new lesson, let's have a short recap first about what we had last time, Teacher Dana.
Yes, that's right. Last time, we talked about the 5 principles of ethical journalism.
Yes. Can you still remember the 5 principles of ethical journalism?
Yes!
Let us check your memory, mga kaastig.
Well, what do you mean by ethical principles in journalism, Ma'am Carol?
When we say ethical standards, these are the rules or behavior based on what is morally good or correct or kung ano yung tama in delivering news. We need to follow these ethical standards in journalism to avoid being biased o para maging patas at tama ang pagbabalita.
Yes, that is correct. And to give our listeners some refresher about the 5 ethical standards in journalism, let's have a short activity. Let me give you a short scenario about it and tell me what ethical standard I am referring to.
Now we will give you 5 seconds to give us the answer. You can check your notes as well about the topic that we had last time. Are you ready?
Yes!
Teacher Dana?
First item. Jason is shooting for a documentary news and he gathers facts through interviews and readings. He always double checks the information by finding other sources to avoid errors.
Now, what ethical standard in journalism is Jason practicing?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time's up! The answer is truth and accuracy because of the keyword double check. Dapat naman talaga nating i-practice ang ethical rule na ito para tama ang impormasyon na ating naibibigay sa mga mambabasa. This is again the cardinal rule in ethical journalism. Truth and accuracy. Never forget that.
Yes, that's correct, Teacher Carol.
How about the second scenario, Teacher Dana?
Let's go to the second scenario.
Michael, a Black American journalist, had a bad experience with Australians during his childhood. He was asked to write a documentary of Australian culture and does not use any disrespectful words despite his bad experiences with them. He chose to write about some of his good experiences with good Australian people.
Now, what ethical standard in journalism is he practicing?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time's up. The answer is humanity. Because despite of his bad experiences, he did not describe the people there in general with any disrespectful words. We should always be culture and gender sensitive in writing our article.
That's right.
All right. Now let's go to the third scene. Arthur, being tasked to report about the conflict between two senators, went to the press conference set by each party and asked relevant questions to clarify some information.
What do you think is the ethical standard in journalism he is practicing?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time's up. The answer is fairness and impartiality, because he always gets the two sides of the news. In this way, we could avoid taking sides or being biased in delivering our news. Now let's try to consider another scene. Are you ready? Richie was called out by one of the senators in TV, accusing him of his impartiality. Richie was proven to be biased in one of his news reports, and he decided to do a public apology.
Now, what ethical standard in journalism is he practicing?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time's up. The answer is accountability. Because he accepts his mistakes and he corrects them.
That's right.
All right, let's go to our last scenario. Mark was offered by a confidential senator to report only his good sides of his political agenda in exchange for a possible political position and cash. Now, Jason refused and continued to do his news report.
What do you think is the ethical standard in journalism that he is practicing, mga kaastig?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time's up! The answer is independence, because he refused to be affiliated with political figures and organizations. He even refused to receive various gifts offered to him, right?
Yes, that's correct, Teacher Carol. All right, so that's it, mga kaastig. I hope you get all the answers correctly in our refresher activity. And as future journalists, you should memorize and practice these 5 ethical standards or 5 ethical principles of journalism by heart.
Of course, because these ethical principles are not just limited to journalism. We could really apply this in our daily lives.
Yes, that's correct.
And since we are done with our recap, let us now go to the new SPJ lesson we'll have today. This lesson is anchored on our SPJ Module 4 in Quarter 1, which is observing intellectual property rights through proper attribution or citation of sources.
There seems to be a lot of words there, Teacher Carol. Intellectual rights, proper attribution, citation of sources. Can you explain this to all of us?
Of course, Teacher Dana. Now, we will definitely know everything about it later on. But how about discovering the meaning of this through an activity? I think it will be more challenging sa ating mga kaastig, Teacher Dana.
That is great, Teacher Carol. And let's have an activity first. So how do we go about the first activity?
Okay, we'll play 3 sound clips of different prominent people, Teacher Dana, who are giving speeches. Now, what our listeners will do, or viewers, is to first give us the name of the speaker, and second, the summary of the speech or what the speaker is talking about. So, dalawa lang talaga yung gagawin nyo, mga kaastig. You just have to identify who is the person behind the audio clip and the summary of the message of that speaker. Now, let's try to check whether you know these people. These are prominent individuals, so I hope you can easily guess them. And let's find out if you can guess the summary of what you heard from them. Are you ready? Yeah! Great! Teacher Dana?
Let's play the first clip.
Isipin, Mr. President, na ang programa na para sa mga mahihirap, tapos may mga tao na kumokontra, dapat, hindi ko maintindihan yung mindset ng mga politiko dito sa Pilipinas, Mr. President. Kasi, pag maganda yung ginagawa para sa mga mahihirap, dahil kalaban ka, kukontrahin ka. Nakakabuti naman sa taong bayan. Pagkakalaban ka, ganun. Kaya walang progreso, walang kaunlaran ang bansa natin dahil after ng administration ng isang leader, pag mapalitan siya, hindi ipagpatuloy yung programa niya na maganda para sa taong bayan. Pagkatapos naman ng isa, yung magandang programa niya, mahinto na naman, ibang programa na naman. Ganun yung mindset natin because kalaban, hindi ipagpatuloy kung maganda namang programa para sa mga mahirap na tao, bakit hindi natin suportahan? Kahit na ba kung ang isang politiko ang puso para talaga sa taong bayan o tumulong, kung maganda yung programa, dapat suportahan na lang.
Okay. That was the first clip. Now, mga kaastig, can you guess who is it? And what is the summary of his or her message? Well, you got it right. If your answer is Senator Manny Pacquiao.
Yes.
And Senator Manny Pacquiao is giving his speech during the Senate hearing about the ongoing corruption, unfortunately, in our country.
Yes, it's very rampant even in the Senate, right?
Yes, that's
Not just in the Senate, but also in local offices. There are some rumors spreading about it, even news. They are reported in the corruptions that they are getting involved with.
Yes.
Just like those various hospitals and agencies in our government. So it's not just in the Senate.
Yes.
But corruption is really rampant in our country.
Yes, unfortunately, that is what is happening now in our country. So some senators, unfortunately, are behind this corruption. Kumbaga,
Yes,
Teacher
that's
Carol.
right. So it was Senator Manny Pacquiao talking about, or his speech is about corruption that is rampant not just in the country but especially in the Senate.
Alright.
Okay, let's now have the second audio clip. Let's try to guess who the speaker is and the summary of the speaker's speech.
Alright.
Bayan, mga kapamilya, ilang dekada rin tayong nagkasama. Utang na loob namin sa inyo na tinanggap ninyo kami sa inyong mga tahanan gabi-gabi. Naging malaking bahagi na kami ng inyong buhay. Karamay sa mga panahon ng kalamidad at paghihirap. Kasabay namin kayo sa pagluha sa mga teleserye. Magkasama nating pinagbunyi ang tagumpay ng ating mga bayani, mga ordinaryong tao na nakagawa ng imposible. Sabay din nating pinanood na nabuo o mabuo ang kasaysayan sa pamamagitan ng TV Patrol at iba pang news and current affairs program. Isa pong karangalan na maging tagapaglahad ng inyong mga kwento at tagabantay sa mga nasa kapangyarihan. Karangalan po namin na maglingkod sa inyo, kabayan. Hindi man na-renew ang aming prangkisa at pinatitigil ang ating broadcast, nangangako kami sa inyo, hindi kami mananahimik sa pag-ataking ito sa ating demokrasya at sa malayang pamamahayag. Sa harap po ng pinakamalaking dakog at hamon sa aming kumpanya at sa aming mga hanap buhay, hindi namin kayo tatalikuran, kabayan. Mga kapamilya kami, tayo ang ABS-CBN. In the service of the Filipino, saan man sila naroroon sa buong mundo.
Now, can you guess who was speaking behind that audio clip? And how about the summary of the speech that he is expressing?
Okay, so if your answer is Noli de Castro, then you got it right. And what is he talking about? He's talking to the viewers or saying his farewell to the viewers during the last episode of their new show. He was reminiscing the experiences they had in giving service to the Filipino people as media persons.
Yes, a lot of people got emotional with that message.
Yes.
Not just with that message, but especially the closure itself, right?
Yes, that was a big controversy for the last year, right, Teacher Carol?
Yes, Teacher Dana. But I guess right now they are still airing online. A lot of viewers are still following their teleseries.
Yes, that's correct. All right.
Now let's have the third audio clip.
Ikaw, pag umiiyak ka, nakikita ng anak mo. May mga pagkakataon.
Never ko pinapakita. Ang pinakamasakit, yung pagpupunta ka na sa trabaho, tapos sasabihin niya, I don't want mommy to work. Kasi gusto niya kasama ka niya.
Tapos tatalikod ka.
Tapos tatakas ka.
Alam ba ng anak mo na baliw ka? Joke. Hindi kasi tinatanong ko, kasi alam mo, yung mga nanay, maraming pagkakataon na umiiyak yung mga nanay natin pero hindi nila sinasabi. Maraming pagkakataon na humahagulgol yung mga nanay natin pero hindi natin alam. Maraming beses silang umiiyak pero hindi nila ipinapaalam sa atin. Una, umiiyak yung mga nanay natin pagpakiramdam nila nababastos natin sila. Pag sinasagot-sagot natin sila, pag nagdadabog tayo, pag nagtataas tayo ng boses sa kanila, umiiyak sila kasi feeling nila wala silang kwentang ina. Kaya ginaganon natin sila. Umiiyak sila pero hindi nila sinasabi sa atin. Pangalawa, umiiyak yung mga nanay natin dahil sa takot. Pag disoras na ng gabi pero hindi pa tayo umuuwi. Natatakot sila dahil baka kung ano nang nangyari sa atin, kung saan tayo napunta, baka nabiktima na tayo ng masasamang loob, kung ano nang ginagawa natin. Umiiyak sila sa takot, pero hindi nila sinasabi. Pag darating tayo ng disoras ng gabi, magagalit sila, malakas ang boses, pagagalitan tayo, sisigawan para kala mo ang tapang-tapang nila. Pero bago sila nagtapang-tapangan, umiyak muna sila sa takot kung anong nangyari sa atin, kung nasa na tayo, pero hindi nila sinasabi. Pangatlo, umiiyak ang mga nanay natin pag alam nilang umiiyak tayo dahil niloko tayo ng ibang tao. Niloko tayo ng karelasyon natin, sinaktan tayo ng boyfriend natin, sinaktan tayo ng girlfriend. Umiiyak sila pag umiiyak tayo. Habang umiiyak tayo, umiiyak sila, pero hindi nila sinasabi. Dahil ayaw nilang manghina ang loob natin pag nakita nating umiiyak sila.
I know marami ang nakarelate doon sa pag-iyak ng ina. Pero can you guess who is the speaker and the message or the summary of what he is talking about?
All right. Your answer is Vice Ganda.
Mhm.
Okay, so that was his message during showtime about our mothers, mga kastig. So it's about the experiences of our mothers with their children, especially the moments why our mothers cry because of the actions of their children.
Yes, marami talagang nakarelate doon at nakaponder kung tama, no? Napaiyak ko si mama.
Exactly. So I guess it's a very Vice Ganda gives a very good lesson or message in that episode of Showtime.
Yes.
Ang daming umiyak na viewers during that time actually.
Of course. Now, what can we conclude from that activity, Teacher Dana? In guessing who the speaker was, in summarizing their message.
That's a very good question, Teacher Carol. Now, we should bear in mind that in writing news stories, we have to make sure that our news is based on facts. And we can only verify these facts through actual interviews, through video clips, and audio clips, right? Just like what we
Yes.
presented to our viewers. However, we cannot just write the whole interview in our article.
Of course, mahaba-haba talaga yon.
That's
Sinulat
correct.
natin lahat.
Yes, that's correct, Teacher Carol. And as a journalist, we simply tell the reader where the story came from, as well as who is being quoted.
Yes, every time the information in the story comes from a source and not from your own first-hand observations or knowledge, it must be attributed. We need to attribute once per paragraph if we are telling the story mainly through comments from an interview or eyewitnesses to an event. Again, you have to attribute or cite the source one per paragraph. It might seem repetitive, but it is important for journalists to be clear about where their information originates.
Okay, I think, Teacher Carol, for that explanation, a short activity or a short video clip will help us understand
Yes.
all of those. So, to help us understand what attribution is in writing news stories, let's try to watch this very short video clip. And after playing the video clip, let's answer some questions. Okay? So please watch it carefully so you can answer the questions. Let's play the video clip.
Potrisem Pandiin's family fled the war in Marawi in the southern Philippines 3 years ago. She was hoping to return to Saudi Arabia for her work as a domestic helper to earn money and rebuild what they've lost.
Look at our situation. It is dehumanizing. We are sleeping here. We have no money. My children called me and said, "Mama, are you coming home soon?" But I don't know when.
Melanie Maruhom is angry. She says her domestic flight to Cagayan de Oro province has been postponed 3 times, and the next won't be for several more weeks. They are among the hundreds of Filipinos who have been living like this over the past few days, under a bridge just across Manila's airport, refusing to leave until transportation restrictions are eased or until the government tells them of its plan to help them get home. Some have repeatedly traveled abroad as overseas workers, while others were waiting for their deployment for the first time when they were stranded in Manila after the government imposed a lockdown to stop the spread of coronavirus more than 2 months ago.
Most of them come from impoverished communities. They have spent almost all of their life savings to come to Manila hoping for a chance at a better life. But now they say they're actually putting all their dreams in the back burner for now. All they want is to go home to be with their families again.
The Philippine government has been facilitating the return of stranded citizens both here and abroad, but its resources are buckling under the weight of the global pandemic.
makipag-ugnayan po kayo sa
They need to coordinate with the Social Welfare Department so that they are given much needed assistance, like food and place to sleep. We are also bringing those who are stranded to the Villamor Golf Course for rapid testing, and perhaps they may be allowed to stay there for now.
Latest government figures show the unemployment rate has jumped from 6% to more than 17% in just a matter of months since the pandemic began. Denny Sebastian has been stranded here in the capital for months. He says he has sold his personal belongings, his luggage, his cell phone, even his last pair of shoes.
Okay, that was the video clip or the news story, mga kastig. I hope you listened or watched it carefully. Now let us try to ask some basic questions about it. First question. Where did the reporter get the information in the news she presented? Again, where did the reporter get the information in the news she presented?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're correct if you answered from various stranded Filipino migrant workers as well as government personnel. Because if you could notice, every time the reporter uses information from the speaker or from the source, she always mentions the name of the source. Teacher Dana.
As well as the title when he had an interview with Harry Roque.
Yes, a government personnel.
Okay.
Okay.
How about the second question? Did the reporter mention the source of information? Again, did the reporter mention the source of information?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Teacher Carol?
Well, you got it right if you answered names of the reporter sources were mentioned and even flashed on screen as they expressed their thoughts.
So that's how important the actual interviews, right, Teacher Carol?
Yes.
You can definitely use them in your news delivery. All right.
So you really have to attribute the source.
Exactly. Now, the third question. Why do you think should sources be mentioned when reporting? Again, why do you think the sources should be mentioned when reporting?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, basically, it's to give credit where the credit is due, Teacher Dana. So you really have to attribute your source. Also, to strengthen the position or argument one presents para may support yung mga reports mo. Kasi pag wala kang sources na inimension, people would think na idea mo lang yon at wala kang basihan. That's why. So aside from giving credit to the source, also it strengthens the position that you are presenting.
That's right. Generally, Teacher Carol, attribution means using the source full information like his full name, job title, and those information are very relevant when delivering news. Information from sources can be paraphrased or quoted directly, but in both cases, it should be attributed.
Yes. Now, we have 4 distinct kinds of attribution, mga kaastig. Again, we have 4 kinds of attribution. Now, the first one is on the record. Now, when we say on the record, all statements are directly quotable and attributable by name and title to the person making the statement. Now, this is the most valuable type of attribution.
So, can we have an example, Teacher Carol?
Of course, we'll be giving examples so our viewers and listeners could easily connect and understand the explanation of on the record. Again, the statement is directly quotable and attributable. Now here is our example. The PTA funds for most of the expenses in LFNHS. That's why we really encourage parents to pay what is due, because it's not only for the students, but for everybody. LFNHS Principal 3, Sir Jeffrey Villarosa, said in an interview. Now, as you can hear in that example on the last part, we provide the name and the designation of the person who actually said the words. We also enclosed his words with quotation mark, which means that the words are actual words he is saying during the interview. Again, if the statement of your source is attributable and quotable, you should include the complete name and the position of your source.
Okay. So to make it easier, Teacher Carol, so in your example, the words there that is used by Mr. Villarosa is quoted.
Yes.
Using the quotation marks, that means that those words are really coming from him.
The exact words.
And yes, the exact words. And after the statement is his full name and his designation. Right?
That's it.
Okay.
That's for on the record.
All right. So that's on the record attribution. All right. Thank you, Teacher Carol. Now let's try to go to the second type of attribution style, which is on background. Again, the second style is on background. Now, what is this on background attribution style? All statements are directly quotable but cannot be attributed by name or specific title to a person commenting. Again, there are actual words. However, you cannot give the whole information about the source or the person that you interviewed. Let's have an example.
Yes.
Having the CCTV lessen the risk of people doing misconducts in the school, since they will be wary of their actions, knowing that cameras are installed somewhere. A grade 10 student said. Okay, so that's an example of on the background attribution style. So if you can notice, mga kaastig, unlike the first example, we did not mention any name we did not mention the name of the interviewee. Okay? So we just use grade 10 student. It is one way of making the person anonymous. And in journalism, usually if the comment is coming from the person in the community with no specific title, we can just use this type of attribution. So it's okay not to specify the person's name.
Yes, that's it. So, kung sa on the record, importante yung individual na nagbigay ng message. Kaya, in-include yung position and the name, who is our principal in La Filipina National High School. While on the second one, since that is a person in the community or a student, hindi na minention yung name. Instead, generic na lang. It's grade 10 student.
Exactly. Okay, that's the difference between the two. All right.
So again, the first two types of attribution are on the record and then on background. The third one is on deep background. So kung background lang isa, ngayon may deep background pa talaga.
Okay.
Now let's find out kung anong kaibahan nito sa nauna. Anything that is said in the interview is usable but not in a direct quotation and not for attribution. The reporter writes it in their own words. So ganun yon. Hindi ka na mag-a-attribute. Kung kanina sa background or on background, you are attributing in a generic way. Dito sa on deep background, you won't be attributing the source anymore. Instead, ipaparaphrase mo na lang at i-write mo on your own words kung ano yung information na nasabi mo. Now, here's an example. In order to strengthen security and safety in the premises of La Filipina National High School, the Parents and Teachers Association gains funding for an additional set of CCTV. Now, as you can notice with that example, wala nang minention na source ng information. Now, once the information you had from a certain source gets too lengthy or broad, kung mahaba-haba na talaga, you could just write it on your own words and just attribute more significant ideas from that source later on in your news. So, not all the time na i-attribute mo talaga yung source mo. Pag mahaba na talaga yung thought or idea na kanyang binigay, you could just summarize it and then just choose more important informations that the speaker might give later on and present that in your news. So, walang pangalan sa on deep background.
So it's like, it's just like an introduction. Kumbaga, Teacher Carol, after the statement using on deep background attribution, you can use the other attribution style.
Yes.
So it's just like paraphrasing, kumbaga, the information. All right? Okay, very
Sakto na
good.
yun.
We have the first three on the record, on the background, and the third one is on deep record. Now let's have the fourth one. Okay, the fourth one is off the record.
Yes.
Okay, off the record naman ito, Teacher Carol. So what is
Opposite
this?
sa nauna.
When you say off the record, information is for the reporter's use only and is not to be published. Again, it's not to be published. The information is also not taken to another source in hopes of getting confirmation.
Yes.
So what do you mean by this? So the information could be unnecessary. Ibig sabihin, hindi masyadong importante. It is unnecessary to be included in the news you are writing. Therefore, you could just leave it unreported. Okay? Or it could be confidential. So, may mga information na hindi naman talaga, let's say, it's not very important in news delivery, or maybe it's very important na it is considered to be confidential.
Yes.
All right? So, these confidential statements may cause harm to your source. Thus, you must secure the safety of your source and keep the information on your own na lang.
Yes.
Okay, so have you differentiate the fourth one, Teacher Carol, off the record?
Klarong-klaro yun, off the record. Kasi nga, going back to the ethical principle during the recap, yung humanity na part, pag critical na yung situation, your interviewee should be protected. Dapat hindi mo na i-reveal yung mga critical or yung mga salient na information na dapat naman hindi na i-include sa news. So, it might be pwede na off the record either pag hindi necessary sa news, pag hindi related, and kung critical yung information.
Exactly, very confidential. So, it's just between the two situations. And, again, it's not to be published. Okay?
Yes.
Alright.
So, those are the four. It's on the record, on background, on deep background, and off the record. And that's it, mga kaastig. Those are the four types of attribution style. You can further research later for other references regarding those attribution styles. And how about an assessment, Teacher Dana?
Yes, of course. Hindi natin dapat kalimutan ng assessment after the lesson. Okay, so let's try to put your knowledge to a test, mga kaastig. Let's have a short assessment about the four attribution styles. Now, what you will do is identify what attribution style are we describing. And we will give you 5 seconds, again, 5 seconds to give us the answer. So you just have to choose among the 4 attribution style. Alright? So, are you ready? Alright. If you're ready, then let's have the first statement. It is the most valuable type of attributions since all statements are directly quotable and attributable. Again, it is the most valuable type of attribution since all statements are directly quotable and attributable.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time's up. Well, the correct answer is very good. It's on the record. Again, on the record.
Yes, on the record kasi directly attributable yung source nyo. And quotable talaga yung information na nakuha from prominent individual. Now, the second item is, this type of attribution is used when the information gathered is for the reporter's use only and is not to be published. Again, just for the reporter's consumption at hindi ipapublish. What do you think is that attribution style?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time's up. The correct answer is off the record. Opposite ng nauna.
Yes, off the record, mga kaastig, for the second item. Okay? Let's have the third one. This type is used when all statements are directly quotable. However, you can't attribute the statement to any name. Again, this type of attribution is used if all the statements are directly quotable, but it can't be attributed to any name.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Well, if your answer is on the background, then you definitely got it right. So these are the statements wherein the person giving the comments or the statement is just a simple person, a layman in the community, kumbaga.
Yes. Okay, let's have the last item. Anything that is said in the interview is usable but not in a direct quotation and not for attribution. Instead, the reporter writes it in their own words.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time's up. You got it right if your answer is on deep background. So you don't have to attribute your source anymore. Okay?
Alright, so that's it, mga kaastig. How was your score, student? I hope you were able to get correctly the answers in our short assessment. But that is only the first assessment, mga kaastig, okay? It's just a simple identification. Let's have a second assessment about the 4 attribution style. Now, this time, we will give you a short news article, okay? An excerpt, a short news article. And what you will do is identify still the attribution style. Again, 5 seconds, and we will reveal the answer. Alright? So you have to listen carefully, mga kaastig, for the second assessment because these are taken from the actual news articles. Alright?
That's it.
So let's start.
So kung kanina, yung mga definitions lang ang in-identify natin, this time, we'll have actual news articles. Okay, but these are just excerpts. Now here's the first item. The Philippines will heed the call of the World Health Organization to increase its target number of participants for the local run of the WHO's COVID-19 vaccine trials to 4,000. Again, the Philippines will heed the call of the World Health Organization to increase its target number of participants for the local run of the WHO's COVID-19 vaccine trials to 4,000. What do you think is the attribution style?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time's up! The answer is on deep background. It's very obvious kasi hindi minention yung source or kung sino talaga yung directly nagsabi ng information na yon.
Yes, that's correct. So it's just a paraphrase statement, right, Teacher Carol?
Yes.
Okay, now let's have the second item. We are in that direction that we will be increasing the number of participants to 4,000. We are just making final arrangement with WHO. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere said partly in Filipino during an online press briefing on Wednesday.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so what's your answer, mga kaastig? What do you think, Teacher Carol?
It's very obvious. May name na ng source. Ano nga yun?
Yes, the correct answer is on the record.
Yes.
Okay, because you specify the name there, which is who is Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere.
Yeah, also the position of the source.
Exactly.
How was it, mga kaastig? I hope you were able to identify the attribution style of each article or each paragraph. Now, these articles can be easily identified. However, the challenge lies in how you will write your own article using the attribution style. So, it's on the application part. Yun yung mahirap, diba, Teacher Dana? You can check some newspaper article as well, identify its attribution style, and use it as reference so you can write your own.
Okay, so you can definitely look for newspapers in your home, mga kastig, and try to identify it by your own, kung anong attribution style.
Of course.
Alright, so that's it, mga kastig. We just finished another SPJ lesson focusing or writing the different attribution style. I hope you take note of the important information and you learned something new today.
Yes, I hope they enjoyed while learning. Now that's it. Now before we end this segment, allow us to greet our colleagues, especially the English Department of La Filipina National High School, headed by Sir Harley Aglosolos, and to my ever-supportive husband, my family, and to everyone who are tuning in up until the end of this segment. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Yes, and of course, not to mention the very hardworking crew who are shooting. Yes, of course, who are shooting with us today here in Salida TeleRadyo. Thank you so much for all your hard work. And thank you everyone who are staying or tuning in with us right now. And I hope we'll see each other, or you will watch another session of SPJ probably next
quarter.
Yes, next quarter. That's
But
correct.
not just in SPJ, we are also encouraging everyone to continue listening and viewing all other episodes of Salida TeleRadyo and 98.3 Gold FM segments, because you will really learn a lot from each session with different subject matters and subject teachers to have with you.
All right. And once again, this has been your host, Teacher Dana.
And I am Teacher Carol saying,
never stop learning because
life never stops teaching. See you next time. Bye-bye.